Okay, I'm back. Part 2 of Module 3 and 4. We're just cramming in a lot of information. So I usually try to make these shorter. But because this is one of my areas of interest, I'm sorry. Here's the lengthy videos this week. So anyway, let me jump back into where I was. What we're dealing with in career guidance is we have these interventions that are taken out of context. Really a 1950s, 1960s, 1970s United States context, where we really, and that's a lot of degree, we still value these things. Individualism, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, autonomy, we each have the power to be whatever we want to be. We each should aspire to affluence. In other words, what's the highest paying job? Prior to 1972, when people went to college, they went to the university. Most students, there's polls, most students went to get a more acculturated, more theoretically grounded worldview. In other words, they went for their own enrichment, their own personal enrichment. If that makes sense. Now, at past 1972, there was a switch. And most students went to college to get more money. And it's been that way ever since. And the gap has widened since then, by the way. The number of people who primarily go to college just to gain more personal insight, more knowledge, versus people who are going to get money. So there's this idea that everybody strives for affluence. There's also this idea that the structure of opportunity is open to all. Well, we know that with how much the state has decreased support for higher education, we've decreased a little over 33%. The amount that the state of Oklahoma contributes to institutions of higher learning, just for people to be able to come and have lower tuition, have decent faculty, that's decreased significantly. Not just in Oklahoma, Oklahoma faster than anybody else. We're number one, another number one category. So no, it's not open to all because of financial burdens, financial issues. We all don't have families that are made of money. And so we make decisions based on what we have, the resources available to us. So not everybody has the resources to do whatever they want. The centrality of work in people's lives, your work is your identity. I've kind of stressed that, but that is one of the underlying assumptions. And the linearity, progressiveness, and rationality of the career development process. Again, that corporate ladder, it's a constant progression. You're always going to just move upwards. So there's been systemic things that have flown in the face of some of these ideas. Not everybody believes in individualism and affluence. I mean, I believe that people should be able to determine their own destiny, but I also don't believe that we're just in a vacuum and anybody can just do whatever they want to. Moreover, my own philosophy is I believe I'm connected to others. I'm not just an individual out there trying to, beat the masses. I want to work in a group of like-minded people. When I took a job with Meadow Lake Hospital, I wanted to work with other people who were working with kids. When I took a job leading charge therapist at Meadow Lake Hospital, again, I wanted to be a part of a system that helped. I didn't just want to be some individual making $1 million. And that's kind of putting those two things into context. Yeah, I had some opportunities earlier in my career to do different things, but that wasn't necessarily important to me. And it's just not in other words, and I definitely, when I went into higher education, I definitely took a very significant pay cut um, from what I was doing before, which was leading the largest mental health agency needed. And so um, we have these assumptions, and not everybody has those same assumptions, and I'm one of those. I don't have all these assumptions. So to be culturally competent, number one, we need to be critical of the kind of the water we're swimming in, so to speak. Now, you may have people, yeah, I just want to get rich as I can. That may be their ethic. And so we battle this etic and emic. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Etic, do we want universal models? This is one size fits all, or do we want emic, culturally specific model? Are we going to have models that fit specific cultures? So with Holland, Super, even Crumboldt is going for they're going for universal models versus emic models, which are some of the ones that we just discussed up here with these postmodern approaches. They're trying to meet people where they are. So that's important to hopefully at least modify to reach people where they are. I mentioned a lot of these things that I just kind of went off on in our previous in our previous video at the end of it. Hopefully I made the end of it entertaining. As I'm going to jump into this into a little bit more depth with our exploring our own biases, there have been really, and this started for a long time ago. There was research in the 50s that started, and I can't remember the researcher's name, that tried to find, okay, what is the most effective therapeutic intervention? And is it psychodynamic? Is it behaviorism? There weren't too many at that time, but they started looking at, is it Adlerian? Is it Jungian? There were a bunch of psychodynamic approaches in. And so there was this looking for these things that each therapy kind of looks, like it's making a difference, like it's helping people improve. This research was significantly enhanced and it's another word, built on. I don't know, that's not the best word, but it definitely a person spent a lot of hours and working through hundreds of studies. They're doing what's called a meta-analysis, looking at different evidence-based approaches. In other words, there's always these models, these debates between, okay, which therapy is the best? Is it cognitive behavioral? Is it narrative therapy? Is it solution focused? Which one of these therapy approaches is it psychodynamic? Which one of these is most effective? And so this researcher by the name of Bruce Wampold, in 2001, originally published the information and then updated it in 2015. Which one's most effective? Really, what Wampold found by looking at hundreds of studies was that they're all generally pretty effective. When people come to therapy, counseling, they generally get better, which is good. It's a good thing. Regardless of whether you're Adlerian, Jungian, whether you're CBT, whether you're a Gestalt therapist, existentialist, these are working about the same. CBT would argue that they have a lot more evidence, and I'd probably go with that, because there are a lot more studies that, as far as numerically, quantitatively, show improvement. CBT's got some limitations, but that's not for this video. What Wampold found was that they're all basically fairly effective, but there are these things in the middle of them that you can look to that predict whether they're actually going to be effective or not. And so there are some things called common factors, and Wampold suggested there were 7. But so some of these things are like therapeutic alliance, both believe that there's going to be a positive outcome, that there's a There's some common goals, there are common things that you're working toward. But the most predictive of all those things, and so there's a graph that I've seen that shows like the the weighting on these different 7 common factors that people that he put together and other people have put together that says, hey, this is why counseling works. The most, by far, 80%, goes to Carl Rogers' core conditions. The warmth that the client feels from the counselor, the student feels from the counselor, the genuineness that the counselor is able to convey, the warmth and empathy that the counselor is able to convey to the client, and the client genuinely experiences. In other words, the client experiences that, hey, this person gets me, this person accepts me, this person is there for me. Those things, those ideas right there, those are 80% of the change. You can attribute 80% of the change to those particular things within those common factors. The quality of that relationship, which is determined by those things, that's what you as a school guidance counselor, as a school counselor, as a counselor, mental health, whatever capacity, if you do not have a trusting, therapeutic, safe alliance with your client, if they come in and feel judged, if they come in and feel that you're looking at them crossways, if they come in and feel not even, maybe you say, I'm unconditionally positive regard. I'm just sitting here accepting them. If they get the feeling that you are not empathetic to them, there's a big chance they're not going to improve, and you are wasting your time with them. And so, when I mentioned just a second ago that we focus on our own biases, our own prejudices, and our own stereotypes, these influence our interactions with others. So think about someone on the opposite side of the political spectrum, somebody that you have just had the most scathing interaction with on social media, and they do not see eye to eye with you. You click that unfriend button, and a person walks in, and here they're espousing those same views, those same beliefs, those same ideas. How are you going to respond? What's going to come up for you? How are you going to respond to that? What are you going to do? Because your job, your vocation, is to be there, to be present, to be completely empathetic, understanding, and accepting of that person who's sitting with you. So it's important. This is important for you to delve into, for you to dive in and wrestle with. For you to truly be culturally competent, there are 3 things. Number 1, your attitude. You have to check your attitude at the door. Your own personal attitudes, they don't matter. You're here for other people. Okay? That's the big, well, yeah, like, you're getting paid to do this. Your attitude should be one of warmth, unconditional regard, and acceptance. So number 1 is your own attitude, recognizing what could impede your own attitude. Your own knowledge. Your own knowledge includes what that client tells you about their worldview, not necessarily what you assume their worldview is. Your own knowledge then becomes, what does that client bring to you? What does that student bring to you? And skills. What skills do you have that are going to meet them where they are in their own cultural existence, where they are in their own cultural habitat, I guess you might say. I've given a diagram that helps, it's a matrix to help you kind of work through an idea of privilege and oppression as it comes to counseling. you're like, oh my gosh, he's using words like privilege and oppression. Why? This is counseling. We leave that stuff at the door. What are you talking about? No, that stuff comes in the door with us. And if we don't acknowledge it, we have a problem. Because then we risk putting our own values on our clients. We are called towards social justice. We are also called to not put our own values on our clients. The Aca Code of Ethics states that we are to, this is in the mission statement, promote respect for human dignity and diversity, supporting the worth, dignity, potential, and uniqueness of people within their social and cultural context. So if you support someone's dignity, you don't disparage it by putting in your own values. And within the collective knowledge of our field, we firmly acknowledge that a person's position at birth puts them either at an advantage or disadvantage in the particular culture where they're growing. And we actively work to remove systemic barriers that are acting against our clients. So it's an issue that's deep to my heart, and you can probably tell by the way I'm approaching this lecture today. But I hope that you've gained something from it. If it's troubling you, it's probably good. That's what it's hopefully there for. I came from a position of privilege in my life. I really took a lot of things for granted. I have treated a lot of people with, as far as for my work as a counselor, in disparaging ways that reflected a non-understanding, non-compassionate, culturally biased kind of way of interacting with people, and it's not a good thing. Growing up, I was your general overprivileged white kid that played golf at the country club, and so life and experiences. I've been privileged to have a lot of different diverse experiences. I think my biggest growing curve as far as accepting others and learning that I only know about this much of the world right here. My white northwestern Oklahoma rural upbringing. I know about this much of the world. Was when I moved to Tulsa and worked in an adult rehab there, and that was probably experiencing other folks and knowing that other people deserve dignity and respect from their own experience that I knew nothing about. I think that's probably what, even without the theology training and all that other things, that experience probably changed me the most. But anyway, I need to throw that in there so you know where I'm coming from. Anyway, take care. And if you have any questions this week, please reach out. I'll be glad to answer them. Look forward to seeing you online.